Welcome back, everyone. You're watching We Heart Therapy and the special series EFT Talk. I'm your host, Anabelle Bugatti, licensed marriage and family therapist and certified EFT therapist. On our episode today, we have Dr. Scott Woolley. He is a certified EFT therapist, supervisor, EFT trainer. He's one of the founders of the San Diego Center for TRI EFT. He's also a professor of marriage and family therapy at Alliant University. And he's been in EFT and researched EFT and trained with Dr. Sue Johnson for 20 years, I think. So he's definitely an expert in the field and has a wealth of knowledge. And today on our episode, he's going to talk with us about affairs, which we know a lot of our couples, our therapists come in and they have a lot of questions about because affairs is something that feels like it's on the rise. So let's go ahead and get right into it. So Scott, help us understand a little bit more about how does EFT or attachment theory conceptualize affairs, and why is that important for a therapist to kind of keep in mind when they have a couple come in with that?
Well, affairs really tend to be or almost always, a very significant violation of the attachment relationship, right? They're very painful. They represent a profound betrayal and disconnection, which typically brings about attachment injuries.
And so I think one of the easiest things for a therapist to do is to empathize with the partner who's been betrayed by the affair. But, you know, there's another half of that story. And we know that when couples come in for treatment, you don't want to take the side of the person who's been betrayed, and then the person who did the stepping out is kind of left alone. And oftentimes they give a lot of resistance. I don't want to talk about it. So how would we kind of understand or think about or what would we look for the person that did the stepping out, and how can we empathize with them?
Yeah. I think it is very important that we don't take sides per se, and it's easy for us to kind of empathize with the person who seems to be the most hurt, and typically that's the betrayed partner, right? And kind of be upset or mad or hostile toward the person who actually did the betraying.
Or kind of maybe take their side and say, yes, what you did was, sometimes we could almost border on shaming them, like taking the alliance with the betrayed partner, say, yes, what you did was really bad. And that could push them away, which isn't going to help us do good work with both of them.
Right. And what we want to do is we want to kind of move away from that whole piece. Of course, it was hurtful, and it was not a good thing to do. And we don't act like, this is normal, everybody does it. That is not helpful either, because that's taking also a stand. Okay? What we tend to want to do is look at what has happened, and we validate and empathize with the pain of the betrayed person. We also watch for shame and also understand that the person who did the betraying is also very hurt. Okay? And they have got their own pain. They didn't handle it well. The way they handled it was destructive. Okay? But that has happened.
Right.
We're not interested in doing blaming. Typically there's been tons of blaming. We don't want to join that kind of system, right? What we want to do is try to see if we can help both members of the couple heal. Okay? And the blame level is just not going to help that.
Right.
If instead we're saying, okay, they're both hurt and the way it was handled wasn't helpful, but let's see if we can focus on healing the pain. And that's helpful typically. Now, typically what ends up happening is that one or both are very much into helping you as the therapist, and wanting you as the therapist to see the other person as the bad guy. Look what he did, look what she did, this is horrible, etc., etc. And again, we don't try to minimize betrayal. That is not the point. What we do try to do is see people's pain. And oftentimes it's the betrayed person who needs to have their pain seen kind of first. But it's also incredibly important that we see the pain and the shame oftentimes of the person who betrayed or had the affair.
I think that's really important because a lot of therapists from what I understand from the Facebook groups and discussion among therapists, is it's really hard to see past the behavior to the story of pain behind it. And I myself, in Las Vegas, we have so much infidelity, but of course it's everywhere. But you find a lot, the person who stepped out, often doesn't want to talk about it. And, likewise, there's a lot of shame, there's a lot of guilt over, what happened, but they tend to, as the betrayed person wants to talk all about their pain and they're kind of emotionally bleeding out all over the place. I've had some of the, partners that have done the stepping out kind of talk about the fact that there's a reason why they stepped out. They have their story of pain, and they're worried that if we spend all of the therapy focusing only on their hurt and kind of rubbing their nose in their mistake, that the underlying purpose that led to the affair will never get addressed. And that's really important for them.
Right. It's incredibly important. And it's actually important for both members of the couple. Okay?
And the therapist.
And the therapist, okay? Understanding why somebody did something you're not necessarily saying it was okay to do. But, and a lot of times people get mixed up with that. It's like, okay, if I understand why somebody did something, that means that I think it was okay. And that is not the case.
Right.
Okay?
So understanding is not justification.
Exactly. Exactly. Understanding is not justification. But what understanding does do is it helps unravel for both members of the couple how this thing happened. And most importantly, if we understand how it happened, why it happened, we can figure out how to prevent it from happening in the future.
And usually when you frame that to the couple when they come in, that we're going to understand the dynamics of your relationship and what kind of led to this happening, and figure out how we can prevent this from happening again, they seem to be pretty happy about that.
Yeah.
But there's definitely, the affair had a role in the relationship, and kind of the idea that happy partners don't step out, and there seems to be a lot of controversy about that. But from what we know with the attachment science and research, is that well-bonded, very secure attachment does not lead to stepping outside of the relationship.
Yeah, no, that's right. I mean, if a couple is very, very close, Sue often says, if somebody's like this, how do you end up getting somebody, one person going off to another? And it typically is not going to happen.
Right.
And it's also important to understand that couples may not be like this, but, they may not be that distressed. And in some cases, people will stray, okay? And it's important to understand, in one study of men who had sexual-only affairs, they found that they were about as satisfied with their marriages as men who did not, okay? And so it's important to understand that in relative, if you have a really solid marriage, it's not going to happen. But in relatively happy marriages, at times it can happen. And I think it's important to understand that we don't necessarily want to blame the marriage, or frankly, we don't want to blame any person, because obviously, I've never seen a partner or a spouse put a gun to the other person's head and say, you have to have an affair or I'm going to kill you. Nobody makes somebody have an affair, right? Okay.
But you're talking about reaching through the behavior, not justifying the behavior, but empathizing with the emotional needs behind it.
What were the emotional drivers? That's right. And people who are deeply bonded and connected and having their emotional needs met in healthy ways don't stray. Right?
And we are talking about bonded, so when you do this, I want to make sure that therapists understand that we're talking about secure bonding, not enmeshed or fused.
Right. And in fact, what we call enmeshed and infused is not secure bonded. Okay? Enmeshment, typically, if you look at Robert J. Greene's research on enmeshment, it typically involves intrusiveness. It involves kind of having a pseudo-self. It doesn't involve being real. And it's a lack of security. Enmeshment and secure attachment are actually
Separate.
the opposite.
Right,
Yeah.
right, because secure dependency fosters autonomy.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And
Yeah.
insecurity can foster enmeshment or complete disengagement.
And I guess maybe through the EFT attachment lens, our frame for enmeshment would probably be anxious attachment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anxious attachment and right.
Yeah. So when the couple comes in and they have an affair, and we want to help understand the role that this affair played. And you have a seminar, you've done a lot of writings and research around affairs, and you've kind of broke it down into 7 different types of affairs, which can help us conceptualize the role that it played. Can you give us just maybe a flavor of what some of those are?
Yes. Yep, I'd be happy to do so. And we actually are hoping, I worked with one of my graduate students who's now graduated and off doing wonderful things, Abby Gerard, and I on her dissertation did some research on, and we're hoping to get it published soon, on kind of different types of affairs, and we came up with these 7. And they really, what we found is that they were organized around the motivations. What was the motivation for the affair? What was kind of driving it? Okay, and we found that they kind of fell into 3 different areas. Those, which make up the 7 types. Okay, in those areas, one, that the affair was very much driven by problems in the relationship. Okay, not saying there weren't problems in the other relationships, but some affairs, for example, are reactions. They're maybe about vengeance because somebody's hurt, or they're about feeling distant and deprived, and it's I feel so starved, and they end up getting involved with somebody else, etc.
Almost like if I step out, maybe I'll trigger jealousy and you'll want to come closer, but that rarely
and sometimes it's kind of what we call the come and get me affair.
Right.
It's like if I go out here, maybe she'll see what they're missing, right?
Yeah.
And maybe they'll come in and be with me. And tends to not work.
That doesn't
right?
really work so well.
It doesn't work so well. But that can drive affairs, and sometimes the relationship, there's such an emotional disconnection that people are feeling starved, and they end up finding that they don't have to do it again, but they end up finding that connection, or at least a kind of a thin version of connection. It's kind of a pseudo connection with somebody else, right?
You often called it counterfeit attachment.
Counterfeit attachment, and really, and I often these days I'm talking about it's a very thin slice of life.
Right.
Okay, affairs are a very thin slice of life, and I'd like to get back to that one.
Sure.
But just talking about kind of other drivers, there are affairs that tend to be, instead of kind of being driven by very dysfunctional, relationships in the primary relationship, they can also be driven by some pretty deep intrapsychic factors. Okay, so there are people who end up having very kind of compulsive or addictive types of affairs. Other people may have affairs as it's a power thing. Okay, and it's a way of kind of controlling or feeling typically it's men who do this, but sometimes women do, but it's typically feeling their manhood kind of thing. If I can bed this woman kind of thing. And those are typically kind of driven by intrapsychic factors.
Kind of like how they see themselves through others' eyes or in the world, and that's what motivates the acting out behavior.
That's exactly right. And so it's, sure, you don't have a secure relationship in the marriage or in the primary relationship, but it's not really an attempt to modify or even a reaction to, but oftentimes these are folks that may have been having affairs before they ever got into a committed relationship, okay? Or they may have, struggling with various forms of compulsive sexual acting out, etc.
And it's almost like they already have an insecure base just in themselves as an individual, perhaps, some family of origin lack a secure base, and in the relationship, maybe they haven't known how to find security with their partner, and so they just continue in the same pattern they've always done, even though they've gotten married. Or maybe the disconnection in the marriage reinforces that belief that it's not safe to connect with this person, so they turn out.
Or they've learned to live a double life.
Yeah.
they've been living a double life maybe since they were very young, and they've got lots and lots of shame, but they act out, and then they act like they're this kind of great stellar person, and then that kind of continues on. Okay, so that's tricky. But I wanted to say something more about affairs themselves and why they can be very powerful and deceptive. Okay, because affairs provide this pseudo attachment. Okay, in part because they're alluring. In part because they involve a very thin slice of life. Okay, what ends up happening with an affair partner is typically affairs involve a lot of sneaking around, which can be exciting for people, and they involve sex and romance and danger. Okay, they don't involve figuring out how to build a life together. They don't involve really learning how to be truly emotionally intimate. Okay, you can go deep emotionally with somebody that you know you can leave at any time because you shouldn't be doing it.
And that they'll never see maybe the dark parts, like who I am when I get really stressed out at home because I'm paying bills or changing dirty diapers. Or
Exactly. They don't have to do that. They don't have to figure out how to run a household. They don't have to figure out how to raise children together.
It almost reminds me of that romanticism that grandparents have, with their grandkids. It's like, I love them because I can spoil them and then send them back to mom and dad,
Exactly.
So it's kind of like that concept.
That's
I can
right.
go and have fun and have dinner and it's exciting, and then I can leave them and then I go back to my hard life. And that's part of what creates that fantasy that this relationship is so perfect because we don't fight. Well, of course you don't fight because you don't pay bills. You're not in the trenches of life together.
You're not in the trenches of life. And also, consequently, it may feel like a very strong bond, but it's not. Okay? It doesn't have the power to weather the storms of life. Okay? A relationship that is deeply bonded, that has been through real life, a whole life, has got power in order to help you weather the storms of life. That can be a secure base. Affairs are not.
And those affair relationships can kind of be like a house of cards. Sometimes you do find that they'll get a divorce and then they'll get remarried to their affair partner, but then it creates this whole other set of problems because they knew that they got together while they were cheating, and so that's where that whole house of cards comes tumbling down.
Exactly. And some couples do make a go of it. But if they're going to be successful, they have to take their relationship out into the light. They have to figure out how to develop a real, deep, and lasting attachment bond. It's got to be thickened, so to speak. It cannot be this thin slice of life. And I had one couple once that kind of talked about it. I think a woman talked about it. The affair was kind of like eating ice cream. Okay? The problem is if all you do is eat ice cream, you get sick and you die. Okay? It's not real food. It's fake food. Yeah, you may get some calories, but you don't get any nutrition out of it. And if you're going to have a real relationship that lasts, yeah, you may have the ice cream of exciting sex, okay? But you have to have the main course, which is where you're going to get your real nutrition. And that is through facing life together, figuring out how to solve problems, turning to each other for comfort and the good and the bad, learning how to ask for your needs and respond to your partner, see your partner, let your partner see you, all of those things that produce a strong, vibrant, secure relationship, which is, takes a lot of work.
Yeah. So I want to come back because you mentioned, kind of the three categories or themes around the affairs, and you talked about, like the come and get me kind of thing, but then you talked about the intrapsychic. What was the third one?
Okay. It's really, in some ways, a combination of the two, but typically you've got some, not a strong relationship. It may not be driven by the relationship. You've got not a strong relationship, not a secure relationship. And what you've got is other kind of life factors okay, which are kind of coming down, putting a lot of pressure on people. So one of the things that happens is couples may be going forward, they may not be that close, they may not, but then they may have some kind of tragedy. Some couples will turn toward each other and really connect. Other couples may turn away, they may escape, they may turn to, it's really like, we call it an escape affair, okay? And a lot of times it's escaping into romance, into excitement, rather than dealing with, unemployment, with, maybe problems in the family or problems at work or those kinds of things. They escape.
And sometimes this comes up with people when they go through midlife crisis. They kind of feel like, I plateaued, I'm complacent in life, I'm not really happy, maybe I don't feel sexy anymore, maybe I'm going through changes. But again, this is where the conceptualization through the attachment lens is important, because remember, secure dependency creates autonomy. And so, if I'm going through this change, why is it that I can't turn into my partner to help me explore myself and figure out who I am, and to ask for my needs, to feel sexy? Why can't, maybe we can role play together, whatever, Instead, you find these folks, they're turning out looking for some escape or something to reinvigorate themselves that's outside of the marriage, which isn't kind of how
I maybe feel like I'm failing in the marriage, or I'm failing in life. Sometimes it's not even the marriage. It's I'm not doing a good job as a provider or as a mother or, whatever it happens to be. And I'm failing in this area, but in somebody else's eyes, I can be strong, or I can be sexy, or I can be competent.
Or maybe my partner won't understand why I don't feel good anymore, that I want to go through these changes, and somebody else sees me for who I am, and there's this space to be different.
Right, and they'll kind of like try on a new self, okay? And the tricky part about that is what they're, if it was a secure relationship, what they would be doing is going to their partner and saying, I'm really struggling with the fact that I am in middle age now and I am not feeling very sexy. Or I'm not feeling competent, or I've lost my job.
I'm bored.
And or I'm bored and I'm failing, and somehow I just need you to be with me and help me through this and support me. They don't know how to do that, right?
Yeah.
They don't know how to be able to say, hey, I'm struggling. I need to hear I'm okay and that you're with me, right? And they turn out, and then of course things get worse. I mean, they might be exciting in the short run, but over time it creates real problems.
Yeah, so when the couple comes in, we really want to understand, part of this will be in the assessment phase, right? Understanding the role that the affair played in the relationship, what it meant to the person who did the betraying. And part of how we can understand what led to it is to understand the dynamics in the relationship before the affair. Were they able to turn to their partner and ask for their needs or not? And then we may look at, has their pattern changed since then? Oftentimes, couples get thrust into this crisis stage because of the affair, which oftentimes to the betrayed partner came as a complete surprise. They were completely blindsided, I never thought my partner would do this. And
I knew things weren't great, but you have hard times in life and you go through them. I figured we'd come out of it. I had no idea that this would happen, right? I've heard that many times.
Yeah, so how do we help the betrayed partner? Maybe how do we go through the story of pain from the person who committed the affair without the betrayed partner feeling like it's their fault, like, I wasn't there for them?
Right. Well, first of all, people do go into blaming self. Okay, they get caught at the level of blame. And in my own mind, it's like nothing ever gets solved at the level of blame. Okay, you've got to go deeper. It's the wrong level. Okay, and you've got to go deeper. And the focus has got to be on how do we understand this? How do we repair the pain and the injury? And how do we build a relationship where this isn't going to happen again? Okay, that's what it's about. let me back up to our own values as therapists, okay? Our own values as therapists can get in the way. And they can get in the way both of seeing at times, if we take a judgmental stance, we cannot see the pain of either one. We cannot see the pain of the person who had the affair, or sometimes it's the other way. You know, once we hear the story about kind of maybe some of the difficulties in the marriage, then we don't see the pain of the betrayed partner. And either one, if we miss their pain, then we're in trouble, and we are not going to be effective in helping them. On the other hand, we do need to be able to see each other's pain, both of their pain, without feeling like you're siding with the other person. Okay? Sometimes I'm very explicit about saying, hey folks, you know, the affair happened, okay? This isn't about determining, I mean, you know, you did it, we know that, okay? And you're here, and you're trying to work things out. It's not about that level. This is about the fact that you got deeply, deeply hurt. And my guess is you also are deeply, deeply hurt, okay? And to the betrayed partner's pain, oftentimes the person who had the affair sees that pain and goes into shame, right? And of course, shame disconnects. So one of the important reframes that comes directly out of classic EFT is that the betrayed partner is hurting because the person who had the affair is so important. Okay? The affair represents betrayal and disconnection. And when the betrayed partner is feeling the pain of that disconnection, one of the most powerful healing parts is if the other partner, instead of going away into shame, can stay present. And this time, when they're feeling that pain, instead of there being real disconnection, there's real connection.
Staying present.
They're present, which ends up being an antidote to the pain of the betrayal. Okay? It's not the only thing that needs to happen, but it's an important piece. One of the ways of helping that happen is helping the betrayer, the person who had the affair, be able to recognize that what they needed to do, they can be the hero. The reason that this person is hurt is because of how important they are, not how bad they are. Yes, they did a bad thing, but it's not, there's a huge difference between them doing a bad thing
what
and
they do and
bad,
who they are.
Exactly. They did something that was destructive. That doesn't mean that they themselves are bad. And in fact, if they feel guilty about it, if they feel bad about it, it's actually, and this is a very powerful thing, it's actually an indication that deep down inside they're good. Because the pain that they brought, once they recognize it, when they feel bad about that, it's inconsistent with their deeper values about who they really are. They don't want to hurt people. They certainly don't want to hurt the people that are close to them. They don't want to hurt people. That's an indication that deep down inside they're good. And that's powerful. Even though they may have done something, maybe in a moment of weakness, maybe, who knows, okay? And you got to figure that out, right? But for whatever was driving it, they did it, but once they recognize really what they did and how much hurt it was, they feel bad because deep down inside, they're good people, and it's inconsistent with who they are, right? Helping them see that can keep them out of shame. Helping them see that their partner deeply, deeply loves or cares about them, and that's why they're in so much pain, because they're important, can also help. Also helping them be able to see that really what ends up the most effective thing that they can do to help heal this is to be present and engaged with their partner, particularly when their partner's feeling the pain of the betrayal of the affair.
And I love how you also mentioned that the affair is a time where they were, disconnected from each other. And, often a theme I find that emerges with couples and, pardon me, I find that, I find that therapists struggle with this as well. Now my voice is going away. I find that therapists can get stuck in this as well, where there's kind of this sense of hurry up and and get through the pain. Hurry up and heal this affair. Let's, we'll talk about it. Why can't you just get over it? And I feel like I've heard therapists talk, and I feel like they have a tendency sometimes to get sucked into that because it feels like it keeps dragging on. And part of, I think, understanding that the affair symbolizes a time where they were really disconnected, there is an element of grief. This is a grieving process, right? And doing maybe a repair, session of repairing using the attachment injury repair model with EFT, it's not a grief event, right? It's a process. And so, oftentimes we see the couples going on that roller coaster. One day I feel like I can trust, like I feel strong again. I'm not so worried. I think I can get through this. And then maybe a day later, something triggers them. They see a TV show about an affair and they're back in the depths of despair. And you find the, person who stepped out, has why can't you just hurry up and get over this? You need to let go of it. And part of that is understanding that it is a process. And when they can be there through that process, just like grieving anything, the loss of a family member who died, it takes time. So they really need to be set up with the expectation that it will take time. It's normal to take time. It's normal for this to pop up. And the more that they can allow themselves together to kind of grieve, this time can help them heal and move past that and not let it linger.
Exactly. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And people do sometimes get stuck. They can get stuck, but typically if they are stuck in some kind of level of grieving over the losses, we're missing something.
Yeah.
Okay? Something is missing. And sometimes people get stuck because they're terrified it's going to happen again.
Yes.
Okay? And they, and there's a variety of reasons, but that's a big one. And, the two big reasons why that happens, one is they don't feel like the partner really understands their pain. If they felt like the partner saw them and understood their pain, a lot of times the internal belief is if he, they wouldn't do this again. The other big one is that they don't really understand how it happened, and maybe the partner doesn't know how it happened. It's not that uncommon for people who've had affairs to say, I don't know why I did it. I don't know how it happened. I don't know what I did. I never would have thought. I've had, a lot of people say, I hated people who did this. I just thought they were scum, and now I have done it, right? They don't know why they did it. And the tricky part about that is if you don't know why you did it, what's going to keep you from doing it again?
Right.
Which is why you need to understand what the drivers are and come up with your partner a reasonable plan on how to prevent it in the future. I mean, you ultimately, the person who strayed is the one that really needs to figure this out, but the other partner needs to understand it too. And there needs to be a way of saying, okay, this is how we're going to protect our relationship. This is how I am not going to go off in that direction again.
And even still, there's that element of risk, because even when we have the safety plan in place, there's that risk that there's no guarantee on the box. But both partners are really risking. The betrayed partner may feel like, I don't know that you're not going to rub my nose in my mistake forever.
For the rest of my life. Right?
Yes, which feels terrible. And the betrayed partner says there's absolutely no guarantee I can have in writing or in stone that says this is never, ever going to happen, which of course is going to feel risky. But again, that's part of reframing the fear that it's going to happen again, the risk, and helping them turn back to their partner and get reassurance and navigate that when it comes up for them.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, they'll come into the session. We're going to help them understand what role the affair played and understand the dynamics of the relationship prior to that. And that'll help us kind of filter, because EFT, we have the cycle. So that'll help us filter the affair into the cycle. At what point did you start stepping out or turning away from your partner? And so that's going to be part of our work. Now, you have workshops for affairs. So can you tell us a little bit more about the workshops that you offer, and how can folks find you if they want to schedule a workshop with you?
Sure. Yeah. No, that's fine. The workshops that I do are ideally 2 days. Sometimes they're 1 day, depending on the situation. And they involve going through not just the 7 different types of affairs and the research around that, but also really understanding how to assess for affairs, because a lot of times people will come in and one person think the other person did or they didn't. How to handle secrecy around affairs. You know, what happens if somebody tells me that they're having an affair, they don't want their partner to know?
Or
Okay?
they tell us that the affair is over and you find out 6 months into that work.
It's still going, right?
And sometimes that can feel like a betrayal to us because they're sitting in session saying, yes, I'm committed to this, I'm working on it, and then you find out they kept the secret from us too, and it blows everything apart.
And it's, right, exactly. How to handle our own internal processes, you know, that sometimes we can get very reactive, right? And how to prevent and assess for and do everything we can to prevent violence and serious, you know, kinds of reactive behaviors that sometimes can happen.
Right, because sometimes the betrayed partner, I find this more often with men too, is I want to look the guy in the face, I want to see him, you know, and they might stalk the affair partner and, you know, that's kind of scary. So
how to work with the internalized, the internal shame that both partners can have. I'm not good enough. He left me, she left me for somebody else, right? And so that means I'm not enough in whatever way, right? How to work with that, and how to help couples learn how to not only empathize with their partner's pain, but also connect with and be able to work with their own pain, which is incredibly important.
How to navigate the healing process.
And then how to navigate the healing process.
Because oftentimes that fear, you know, those vulnerable feelings show up, especially for the betrayed partner. They like to go into detective mode, investigative reporter mode. I'm checking emails, checking texts, GPSing you. So we're going to learn how to work with all of that, put that into the cycle. When
somebody gets stuck in a certain emotional response, anger, rage, grief, sadness, whatever, help them, or denial sometimes, help them be able to kind of shift out of that emotion. Okay, and the EFT is great around that. It's super helpful. Be able to help partners really go through the attachment injury repair process and help partners develop realistic plans and strategies for how it's not going to happen again.
Right.
Okay. Typically, if it's a 2-day workshop, I will typically do a live session with a couple where there's been an affair.
That's great.
I think that's helpful. So if you end up coming to one of my workshops, I'd love to have, you know, if you've got a couple, I'd love to be able to have that couple come and be able to kind of do a session. And those are oftentimes very instructive. And if you're interested in finding out, you can go to TRIEFT.
.org,
okay. TRIEFT.org, or Dr. D.R. Scott Woolley.
WOOLLEY.
Yeah, 2 L's. 2 L's, 2 L's, EY. That's right.
.com.
I can't remember now.
We'll put the link in the description for the video for both websites so you guys can find it.
That's right, yeah. And you know, and a lot of times they end up on the ISEF website as well as a specialty training.
But you don't have to be EFT trained to have you come to their area of therapists and do a workshop around affairs.
Right. No, you don't. And I have different versions depending on I'm working with people that have been EFT trained or not.
Sure.
So, and it can be, you know, it can be very helpful. Affairs are not easy.
No.
They're very powerful. But what my experience is and what our research has shown is that many couples can and do heal. It takes time. But couples can move to, it takes a lot of pain, but a lot of times they can move to having a stronger relationship than they ever did.
The affair can be a catalyst.
Affair can be a catalyst. Now, you know, couples will not say, gosh, I'm so glad I had the affair so that we can do all this growth. No, not at all. But what couples do say is we grew so much. It was hard, it was painful, but we've got a stronger marriage than we ever did. And that's the goal.
I like the metaphor of the phoenix through the ashes, right? Rise something better and
Rise
stronger.
something better and stronger. That's exactly right.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on our show. Guys, we're going to put the link to his site and the TRI EFT site in the description for this video. Thank you again for staying tuned, for watching the series. Make sure that you keep watching and subscribe because more videos are on the way.
Great. Thank you very much.